If you want to make great choices for your mid-century home, seek out and work with people who like your mid-century home. I've said this before, but it bears repeating. There's just so much bad advice out there for us, people who live in and love houses built during the mid-century years. HGTV wants us to slather them over in trendy farmhouse choices. Friends and well-meaning family keep advising that we remove old-fashioned details for reasons like resale value. Salespeople tell you to replace systems that are doing just fine, thanks, because they want to sell you something new. And contractors who mean well but don't speak the language of mid-century can make assumptions and take common actions that lead to stripping out the character of your home when they're doing basic repairs. So all of that might sound scary, but there is a solution, and that's to keep looking a little longer for advice, for input, for service until you find the people who share your joy in mid-century details. Today, I'm talking with Adrian Kinney of Mid-Mod, Colorado about, among other things, how to find those people. Plus, how to make smart choices for your mid-century home once you get started on improvements. He and I really couldn't love mid-century houses anymore if we tried all day, so you are in for a truly we love your mid-century house chat coming right up. Hey there, welcome back to Mid-Mod Remodel. This is the show about updating MCM homes, helping you match a mid-century home to your modern life. I'm your host, Della Hansman, architect and mid-century ranch enthusiast. You're listening to episode 1807. Now, as always, you'll find my show notes with the links to the references we're making and a transcript of this chat on my website at midmod-midwest.com/1807. You can also just search around in your podcast platform for some of my previous chats with Adrian. We talked earlier this season, that was episode 1802, and also a few years ago we had a really fun conversation about why mid-century homes live so well, why they're so easy to care for, flow so nicely, encourage social chats but also personal space, why they're easy to add on to. You get the idea. That was episode 1004, and it was from November of 2022. If you get to the end of the episode, after having loved everything we said and don't remember those numbers, remember, just head back to our show notes page at midmod-midwest.com/1807. Okay, here we go. How can you find the right team for a mid-century home update or a mid-century home search? So let's talk about how to find people. We're going to talk today about how to find the right realtor, how to find the right designer, but how to find the right people to help you make your house into a home, how to find the house you're going to make into a home. We might start by talking about on the flip side. When you're talking to someone, Adrian, how do you know at first that this is probably going to be a good relationship? What do you see on the home buyer side?
Yes, absolutely. And it's even on the flip of that is sometimes, you go into these conversations thinking like, oh, this is going to be a great match. And sometimes it's not. And I know off screen a couple talks ago, we talked about like, sometimes it's not. And I think it's actually a good way to approach a lot of these things is, a nice casual interview. And, you're just interviewing one another and doesn't have to be permanent. It might not be a fit, but you also might be the best team ever created and you can get everything done. You never know.
And become friends. It can
exactly.
Happen.
Right. Yeah. And, we chat on that. Sometimes it's an absolutely great fit. And sometimes there's, another agent or designer that's even a better fit for them. And that's okay. And that's okay both on the buy side and the agent side and on the designer side. When I get folks in, luckily from the spot I'm sitting here in the niche kind of zone that I'm in, I don't have a price point or location that I specialize in, weirdly enough. Mm-hmm. I specialize from first-time buyers to investors to multi-million-dollar purchases to I've had Colorado Springs, which is an hour away from Denver, and I have stuff, a door down from me that I've listed. So from my side, it's a lot of, hey, just conveying that I have a lot of unique aspects that I can help folks in a wide area as well as wide price points. And I think it's a lot of just understanding, and I'm an info dumper, unfortunately. My initial talks with most of my buyers they're a good hour of me just kind of throwing up a lot of information at them. If they're first timers, they get quite a bit. If they're new to it, I just kind of explain my process. But I think a lot of it is just that, how are we connecting? Are we getting along really, really well? Is it a good back and forth? I think understanding the different roles we have where my job's to make sure they are going to get what they want and I can help lead them there. But they also understand that, I'm the professional and I have a way to do things and guide them to what they're looking for. And kind of we both understand we've got a lot to bring to the table, being hired for a certain reason. So that's a lot of what I look for is just the initial check. And then there's some reality too that unfortunately Denver market, I think most major metros aren't super favorable for first timers, that it's tough. Price points are high, interest rates are high. And again, in some of our other talks we had a while ago here, we talked about like, what can you carve out of the search and what can you keep in the search? And I think that's a good reality check that I talk with them about. Hey, what do you want? What's your price point? What's your location? And having the knowledge bank that I do of where most of these mid-mod houses are that they're looking for, I can let them know like, yep, that's absolutely realistic. There's going to be a ton that come on in there. Or I saw one like you wanted over the last 5 years. We might need to tweak the search a little bit. So that's been a lot. And I'm sure that's on your side too of, hey, I know you want all these things, but here's the cost, and maybe we'll have to massage some in and out or DIY some things if you want to keep the budget at XYZ.
Yeah. And we try not to be too limited as to what we suggest overall in terms of budget.
Yeah.
But we definitely have to think about when people are coming to us with a lot of aspirations and a relatively small dollar amount, we'll talk about what could happen in any of the areas. But at the end of the day, most of that budget is going to go to one spot or to one or two key spots. And then we're going to have to make more minimal changes in the rest of it. I don't think I've had to turn anyone away because of budget, because we do feel like, there's always something that we can think about.
Yes.
What's the most modest modification we can make? Sometimes there are really clever solutions that design can make to save dollars. But do you feel like there is, other than someone not liking mid-century, which does anyone ever call you not into mid-century? Does that even happen?
Yeah, it's I've been in it long enough, so I'm in my 13th, 14th year of it now, and so I get referrals now from clients that they might have a friend, sibling that they're like, "Wow, Adrian was such an amazing agent. I know you're not looking for mid-mod, but like he can totally rock your world and find what you're looking for." So I probably 60-40. So a decent chunk actually of what I do is not mid-mod, because I'm very, very good at what I do in the real estate world, that they feel comfortable still using me for that realm. I know how houses function. I know how the different majors, HVAC, sewer, plumbing, electrical, I know how all that works regardless of style of house. I just obviously have the love and passion and the deepest experience in the mid-mod world. But I do get a lot of folks on it. Luckily, they're all still really cool people, even if I don't love the house personally that they're buying. It's like, gosh, I'm just excited you all are making this your house and I get to come along this journey with you. So yes, I really enough do get it. Very few don't not get it, in the sense of like, my God, what kind of houses are you selling? These are so bizarre. It's just not for them. And a lot of times it's the price per square foot, unfortunately, gets really high on mid-mods, that they appreciate the design or know of it, but they need, they have a large family potentially, and they just can't fit into 1,200 square feet. So sometimes there's just limitations of the characteristics and the price per square foot. That's just like, well, shoot, this might not be a fit for that style, but I can help you look for other styles instead. Got it.
Yeah. And at this point, when someone calls and asks if we can do a house that's not mid-mod, our answer is, we're sorry, no. But it does, I think the act of working with someone on their home, to find a home, to personalize a home, it's a trust issue. We're really diving into someone's family, into their structure, into how they need their privacy and their togetherness, and, learning things that we hold in confidence about their lives. And I think it's really important to feel like we trust each other, we like each other. So I always look at that first meeting, as a chance to really, it's an informational exchange. It's also a get to know you experience. It's
absolutely. Yes.
If you were to tell someone, maybe in another market, what to look for in a realtor, let's talk about what to look for in a mid-century realtor. What would you should look for?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, because there's a ton of agents out there regardless. And then there are a good amount of folks that specialize in it. And this goes back to, we're not all a fit for everyone. We all want to be, but that's the great part, is like, hey, there's a couple of specialists probably in every metro area, and even small niches that you can reach out to and interview and see who you vibe with. I think that, the main thing, and this is a two-way street, is that general vibe of like, do you two get along? Because you're going to be spending a lot of time together looking at houses, late night text messages, planning, 4 or 5 to see in a single day, having full weekends together, writing contracts, knowing some of your financial situation, that, you want to make sure that you're comfortable exchanging that information and kind of having an open line of communication. And that's my biggest one, is like, hey, do we vibe? Like, do we pass the vibe check? Do we work well?
Yeah.
I think the next thing a buyer should definitely look for is their experience.
Mhm.
When 2020 and 21 came around and the market was just booming, a ton of agents got into the field at that time to just good or
Yeah.
bad take advantage of the market because it was crazy, and a lot of them did really, really well. With the markets changing in most of the metros, even with ours, we have competitive situations, but not all of them are. And I think having somebody that has some, good experience, like myself, well over a decade, that can help navigate, hey, do we need to be competitive? Can we negotiate down because it's been on for 6 weeks? How do we go about this house? I think someone with a good amount of experience is a key to it right now,
Yeah.
because it is such a weird market. And that goes on both the buy and the sell side.
Yeah.
You want someone that understands the market right now, because pricing is a huge thing on the listing side, and the buy side, it's really how are you formulating those contracts. Is it competitive? Are you winning, or can you drive down the price to get the best deal for your buyer? In each case, making sure you win the house for it. So I think the knowledge broker side that we talk about in our field of, do they have the experience? Do they know what they're doing? What's their track record like? How many homes have they sold? Those are all great questions to ask an agent that, I was also new once, and I was given chances. So I do appreciate, when folks give new agents a chance. But it is always nice that if you've got a choice, see who you vibe with. Maybe you vibe with the newer agent a little bit better. And that's great. Just know that, the experience might not be there and there's some trade-offs, but ask the questions, ask what their volume is, ask, do they specialize in certain areas and know how to work through all parts of the contract. Like I said, experience, I think, is a big part of it right now, that they have the experience. And I think the tangential to that, see if they have the passion for mid-century. It comes out whether they want it to or not. I've had that, like we chatted, I do represent clients that don't buy mid-mods. And sometimes we'll see like a tangential mid-mod house and they're like, my God, you love these houses. And it's like, yeah, I really do. Like this is where this is where I light up. This is everything. So I think in the conversation that, if it truly is a mid-mod house you're looking for, you vibe well, they have the experience, see if it's authentic. You can, ask some questions about, their favorite mid-mod, enclave or their own personal house. See if they light up. If they do, they're a winner. That's they're authentic. If they, make sure they live in one, and love one. That's, not just playing the part. But yeah, like for me, in our conversation turns into 2 hours because I'm like, oh, mid-mod, you brought it up. Let's talk about it. So I think that passion point, it showcases in their business as well.
Yeah. Oh, I think that's a great 1, 2, 3. And I agree. I think when if you're looking for a designer that's not me, I think that trust, that vibe is absolutely essential. And I think it does come above experience. It is essential. Someone who's very experienced that you don't trust won't be able to bring their experience to bear on your situation because you won't tell them what you need.
Yes.
But then you need someone who knows the ins and outs of the business that you're dealing in.
The project, the management. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to guide them through how it works or give them the wrong budget on your side.
Right. Yeah. And in realty right now, there's no messing around in this economy. No. Houses are rare enough. They're expensive enough. You definitely want someone who's going to help you make the absolute most of your deal. So,
absolutely.
And then of course, we're talking about mid-century houses. So if someone authentically doesn't love mid-century, they might not be the right person to work with.
Yes, no, and I agree. There's a lot of, as you've seen, like, Crate and Barrel, even, have a lot of mid-century similar type products that, any designer could say, like, here's an Eames chair that you can put into any design. And then, sometimes those mid-century folks, that's what they want. It's just kind of the mid-century light. But if you love the true mid-mod, I think you've hit on, like, make sure they've got the passion, because we are a little weird people, but it's something you want to hit. Like I don't want to say culty, but we're culty edge of, like, once you drink the
community. Yeah.
There you go. That's a much nicer word of it, but it is. And people, once you get in it, it's like, oh, I see it. It's very much a passion project. On my side, I know it is on your side, and I'm sure there's a whole bunch of other folks that do it and will be right fits for everybody.
Absolutely. Well, great. I hope that's given people some insight into how to feel like you're making the right decisions, and pay attention to your feelings, your instincts.
Yes.
That number one item is does it feel like a good vibe?
Yes, good that's vibe. A huge one, because like you said, you got to trust them, because you're going to go on a journey with them, whether it's buying or doing the renovation.
Let's talk about what makes a mid-century house and what makes a mid-century house great. So, Adrian, what are some of your favorite features of a great mid-century home? What makes a home mid-century other than the date?
Yeah, right. No, and that's a great thing. And I know a lot of folks that are looking, especially on my side, that will allow my expertise to look at this, because you've probably seen it too. Mid-century has become such a buzzword that everything is mid-century modern, which is actually not true.
It's a Google keyword that has lost all of its meaning. Yeah.
100% it has. And it, I'll see a whole bunch of houses listed that they'll put that in the search. And, if I put that keyword as a search for a buyer, they'll get all these houses that are like, what the heck is this? This is definitely not a mid-century modern house.
Yeah.
So it's been nice to be able to obviously recognize it. And I don't think AI is coming for my job, because there are so many like nuanced hallmarks that I'm like, nope, that is a mid-mod, that is not. And, here's how to spot it. My favorites are the low slung roofs. They were supposed to be houses that kind of disappeared into the landscape and became part of it. Sometimes, you'll see a bi-level and tri-level, but the entire thing doesn't take up the buildable bulk plane.
And it's usually
not
chunky, it's sort of piecemeal in that case.
Yes. Yeah. Right. Where, sometimes it's because there's a rolling hill behind it, and they do like the tri-level part on the back portion that disappears into it. Our house has a low slung roof where the one side of it has a 2-car carport. And I just love that long, low roof line that just kind of disappears into the ground, that, not very tall, but it's, inside has vaulted ceilings, but it's just that's my favorite, a long slung roof. That's where my favorite part is. Probably second will be the floor to ceiling windows. That's another hallmark of a mid-century modern, that you've got floor to ceiling windows. Forever ago, we chatted on kind of how these houses look. And sometimes you can add those windows in, which is another thing too, that, it may just be a classical ranch. You couldn't find that exact mid-mod in your price range. Sometimes you can add those in, that you can kind of bring in modernist hallmark into the house, where you bring that indoor-outdoor connection in.
Right.
So that's the point of like, if it's not there, that's okay. It's not the end of the world. But that's a hallmark I love, is the original ones that have kind of those floor-to-ceiling windows, which pairs with the clustery upper windows that those just bring in the natural light, but allow a lot of privacy still. A lot of bedrooms have them.
That front yard view that gives you the sky, that gives you the light. Maybe a breeze. In Denver, are those upper windows ever operable, or are they usually
They're stationary and oftentimes single pane, because it's cold here, so we might as well have a single pane window. So they our Cliff May, they were still single pane when we lived in one, and we always laughed whenever we made pasta. They would get a nice layer of ice on them, because the moisture would just lock in there, and the woes of living in a 1950s and 60s house, and it just is what it is.
This is a complete digression, but I just launched a podcast about window replacement and maybe keeping your original windows. Here in the Midwest, we typically have storm windows. So a lot of people will complain about their original windows being leaky or too thin or single pane. And that's because they're not using the originally intended storm windows properly. Right. They maybe were lost by a previous owner, or you just don't know that you were supposed to put them on, or that sort of thing. But in Denver, I remember being there and being kind of surprised by how the houses seem to be built for a warmer climate than you had. Did you single pane? Did those upper windows ever had storms, or?
Most of the uppers didn't. And we'd found some correspondence, old associate of mine, that there was the Burns who built the Cliff Mays in the Denver Metro had to write to Cliff and say, hey, we need to get storm windows here, because it's one, cold, and two, some of the buyers are wondering, like, how do we deal with all of these windows, and it's -5 degrees outside. So that was a small oversight, and they did end up doing it was at the time a budget breaking type thing to install those for it. They didn't do them for the upper windows, and most of the houses outside of the Cliff Maze similarly. A lot will have storms for kind of the smaller slit windows in the bedroom, the 5 or 6 foot classic size. But most of the upper clusters or transoms are non-operable and do not have storms for the most part, unless somebody custom made them later on. It was just that we get warm enough here that it's like an afterthought, but we get cold enough here that it's like, I probably should have them. So it's one of those of like, I don't know. We get a lot of sunshine, but we get cold in the wintertime. So it's a toughie.
That might be a factor of the sort of the idea originated in California and kind of came across much less of an issue to have thermally divisive windows in California environment than in Denver. But I do think, the single pane windows, maybe those upper fixed clerestories are an example, but counterexample, but I do think when people are worried about original windows, look for your original storms or replace them, and maybe you're fine.
Yes, that's a huge thing. If you can get that to at least get a little barrier in there.
Yeah, and it's basically you're making a double pane window.
Yep.
by putting on stuff,
Exactly.
and you can take it off again when you don't need it.
Yep,
Yeah,
exactly.
big quantities of glass is a huge feature of a mid-century modern home. Mostly a good feature.
Yes.
I got us off topic, but what else would you add to
No,
your?
that's totally great. No, that's absolutely it. And these have kind of evolved over the time. They were, they were ahead of their time at the time with kind of the open living areas that connect really
Yeah,
well. The kitchens, typically were still really partitioned off, for entertaining purposes. But a lot of the living room, dining rooms, and family rooms were connected. Fireplace. Those were, they weren't separate. Where coming off
Mhm.
of the Sears craft homes, the 2-story brick houses, where every room we had, the parlor, the library. They were all very small, compartmentalized rooms.
Yeah.
Even with the kitchen being compartmentalized in the mid mod houses, the open living areas between the living, dining, and family rooms, that was just such a great hallmark that obviously people have run with today and made full open living areas where the kitchen's connected to everything. That's another hallmark that I love of the era, that ahead of its time essentially.
Which you can modify more easily in a post and beam house where the kitchen walls aren't structure.
Yep, that's again where I love. We did it with our house. We opened everything up.
Yeah.
Makes it great for entertaining. Sure, the kitchen's part of the house now, but as people know, when you entertain, people just hang out around your kitchen island. No matter how amazing of a
Right.
family living outside space, the kitchen island. We, as you saw in our house, we have a 15, 16-foot island for this exact purpose because we oversized it. We know for entertaining, they're going to just gather around this island. So why not just lean into it? Because we could have done everything possible, which we have all this great outdoor space. No, they're going to gather around this, and it's where they're going to sit and stand. So that's that.
There's almost a way, this is, I don't know if this is weird, but I almost think like a big, super chunky, super deep island almost functions like a wall. I mean, obviously it doesn't stop the
Yeah,
sound from going back
absolutely.
and forth, but
Yep.
it defines the space of the kitchen.
Yes.
And yet still, you are entertainers, you are social people. So when people are over, they're going to be in the kitchen. You might as well make it the
Yes.
centerpiece.
Yes,
Yeah.
and that's that back to, like, you can close it off as much as you want, and they're just going to cram their way in there. It's how parties work. You can try your
Yeah.
dangest to do it, but it is what it is, and that you can't really get around it. So no, we did that exact thing. We kind of made it big and chunky to help divide these spaces here, but it's still, when folks are here, we've got 2 sitting chairs, and then everyone kind of line up here and chit chat as stuff's going on in the actual kitchen.
And yeah, that was what I experienced when I visited your house.
Yeah,
It's
right. We
an
chatted
exceptional
around the
house.
island. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Right. No, it's a good one. That's another hallmark. Is kind of that, open living area that we put on steroids in this case. We made it much, much bigger. But yes, the open that it was originally, even if you had the closed off kitchen and whatnot, I just love the way that it flows. Again, people have leaned into it more, but it's pretty phenomenal.
Yeah. Well, and there's so much to love in a mid-century house, and we could
Ah,
obviously make this a way longer feature, but I think looking for those things to love in the house you have, in the houses you're looking for, and if they're not there, finding the ways you can put them back is just the ongoing mission of everybody that loves mid-century.
yes, and I think those main, the low slung roof, open floor plan, and windows, those are kind of the biggest ones to take away from there. I guess you could add in the wood elements too. There's a lot of wood walls, wood paneling.
Right.
If you can add that in, helps bring that warmth back to not make it feel as modern cold, but more of the warm mid-century. Those, I think, are the initial package that, again, most of them can be fixed and added in if you really can't find that one that has it. But I think it really makes it that perfect house to have those kind of things to jumpstart your mid-century search.
Everything but the roof line. Yeah. So maybe if you're looking for the house you can make into your mid-century dream house, maybe the one deal breaker you have to have there is you
Just
need
the
the
roof
roof
line.
line.
Yeah, and the rest of it you
That's
can
it.
make happen. And if it's the roof line, then you're going to have a smaller pool. But I get it, because that's part of ours. Is I just love how low slung it is, especially with the 2-car garage. It just keeps going on and on. I'm a sucker for that. But just kind of that the
It's very,
Incredibles kind of house where it just
yeah.
disappears. Yeah.
It doesn't need to be a flat roof. It just needs a low slope and a long
Yes.
line. And
Yeah.
again, there are still things we can do. I play with roof lines all the time in
Oh yeah.
our mid-century
Absolutely.
master plan packages, and we can extend them. We can think about adding carport spaces that bring the roof out longer. But when you find the right roof line, you found a house you can make a home.
Yes, exactly. That you can manipulate inside galore. But yeah, when you don't have to touch the actual structure on how it looks, like that's the winner. And I get people waiting out for those. For that perfect house, it's roofline's always the big giver of, like, yep, that's for sure mid mod. There's no question about it.
That's the one. Yeah. And maybe that's the thing you can see in your scrolling through Zillow, unless they're showing you just subway tile kitchens. If you're looking
Uh,
for, no matter what else has happened to the house, if it's got its its structure if it's got its roof line then.
Yes, that will really help to bring back those elements too. Because like we chatted on a couple of times, the post and beam structure is usually a low slung roof that taking out some of the, not
Right.
great addition things they may have done to the house and cosmetics, it's easier to put back in those character if it is, post and beam with the low slung roof to really, make it that true mid-century house and bring back the character.
Fantastic. Anything else you would tell someone to keep an eye open for if they were looking for a mid-century dream house?
One of our other talks, we talked about using the right agent, and I think having the agent, make sure they're on a lookout, because a lot of times I will send one to a client and I do a quick look through and they're like, this is not a mid-century. And I re-walk them through and I say, look, there's this low slung ceiling. There were probably windows up here. Yeah, it's really graged out, but there's ways to, fix that. I think it's either, trusting your advisor, or if you're starting your search yourself, I think it's using that date stamp like you alluded to of, what era they were built in your area.
Mm-hmm.
But then you're going to have to, unfortunately, literally go through every listing that pops up to make sure, has it been added on to and can you fix it? Or has it been graged out, but it still has the bones? So I think that'd be the thing too, is once you kind of find those main hallmarks that make it up for your geographical area, then you've got to apply that lovely knowledge to, unfortunately, every single listing to say, okay, we'll see if this is the right thing or not.
Yes,
and that's the thing I say is be patient and really dig into every one of those houses with your real estate advisor or as you're starting your search, because sometimes they're hidden and you wouldn't see it unless you really looked into it.
And that's, in some cases, that's your best bet, is the ones that have been
that are overlooked,
manipulated so much, or have like a horrible 70s wallpaper that's just like frightening everyone else out of the house. That might,
that you're like, that's my vibe. I actually really like that.
Right? Sometimes you're like, oh, actually, I see what no one else sees. And sometimes you're thinking, this is going to scare away people that don't understand what I can find.
They see a full gut, and you're like, all we have to do is add new cabinets, and that wallpaper stays, and we're good. And it's just those are our people. That's what I get.
Yeah. Well, and we find each other, right? I think there's some sort of magnetism in the mid-century community that just pulls us out of the woodwork to join us. So.
We vibe really well. And it's back to that other talk we had about, vibing with your professionals and the network that you make to help you on this journey. That's a big part of it.
And maybe that's one more thing to add, which is that, when you find a community of people, when you're working with one person that you really like and you vibe with and they love mid-century, and then you find your realtor, your designer, your contractor, they can all be a greater team together if they all get along, because they all have that same quality that helps them get along with you. It's just all to the good.
Yes. And I think, finding the professional that can be the good pinpoint, kingpin of all the ones that works all together, that's huge. I do that with my background. I actually help kind of find the designer and then, help be the bridge between what they wanted in the house. That there's professionals out there that can help bridge that all. And it's worth it taking the time to make the right team.
Building the right team is so essential.
Yes.
Well, thanks so much for sharing your expertise. And
of course,
sometime soon.
I would love to.
So there it is. As with every one of these summer mid-century mastermind chats, there's so much more to say. We'll just have to do it all again soon. But in the meantime, I think the takeaway here is that there are always good choices you can make for your home, and good people who want to help you make them. If you're looking for help buying a house right now, you want to collaborate with a realtor who knows their stuff, like Adrian. And if you're struggling right now with how to make good choices for a house that you're already in, well, I've got a couple of ways I could help. If you mostly want to plan a remodel by yourself, but you need a little expert guidance for how to DIY the perfect master plan for your perfect home remodel, well, then check out the free on-demand workshop that I've got recorded for you, How to Plan a Mid-Century Remodel to Fit Your Life and Budget. You can get a clear picture of the exact steps to take to have a great master plan for your home, and then execute it. If you need someone to just pull together a comprehensive vision for the house for you, then that's what a mid-century master plan package is. My team and I at Mid-Mod West can certainly do that creative thinking for you and with you, and then give you a master plan you can go forward into the world and make happen. Or if you're just stuck in indecision about some smaller piece of a project, then get the quick advice you need with a design detail SOS consultation. You can schedule these calls with me anytime you need a design boost. Well, not any time of the day or night, but there are schedule options on the calendar every week. So pick a time you need a design boost. We'll get together. We'll lock down the choices you've been disagreeing about with your partner, or dragging your feet on, or just going around in circles, internet researching. And in 30 minutes, we could change your whole outlook on how your house is going and what you want to do with it. Find the transcript of this episode, all the things I said with Adrian, and the help I've just mentioned on the show notes page, midmod-midwest.com/1807. Quick tease, next week on the podcast, I'm talking with Brandy McLean of Modern House Numbers again, and we'll be teasing a fun practical workshop coming up soon. Kind of a lunch and learn for your house, how you can quickly and effectively up your mid-century home's curb appeal. So stay tuned for that and so much more next week. See you then.